The Socceroos squad to take on New Zealand in the Soccer Ashes has been named by Tony Popovic and Christian. It feels a little bit odd on this Friday afternoon because it feels like usually after these squads come out, people are picking apart the names, they're putting in their complaints, all of these youngsters making their impact that haven't been selected. But it feels like we've almost got everything we've wanted, which is extremely weird for a Popovic side. He usually, obviously, he's the coach, he can do whatever he wants, but he usually has a couple of curveballs just thrown in that kind of rocks us off our kilter. But instead, we're looking at a squad that I think everyone is pretty happy with.
Yeah, before picking this squad, Tony's like, look, I've had enough of people giving me stick for selecting players that really I shouldn't. But so yeah, it's great to see some names that obviously we're familiar with and we expected, right? There shouldn't be too many complaints. Obviously, people are going to have their separate opinions. Maybe one or two players who did deserve to get in there, but there's still obviously a few more windows left to go until the World Cup. So obviously, we'll touch on the lack of A-League players and giving more chances to those playing abroad overseas. Obviously, now in their domestic seasons, now they're getting off and running. So, yeah,
Mm.
overall, I think there should be no complaints.
If Tony Popovic has made one thing clear, he does absolutely not care one little bit what anyone else thinks of his squad selections, but it is nice that everyone's pretty happy and pretty positive about it. And it's the injection of youth, right? There's a lot of senior players. You got the likes of Matt Ryan, who's only just made his move to Levante, so he's not quite settled. Jackson Irvine is injured. A lot of the experienced A-League players, the likes of and Aziz Bayich, who has pretty much been an instant lock in a lot of these squads. There are zero A-League players in this squad, so it's allowed a lot of room for these young kids that have made the room, for them to be able to play, and they've made their move to Europe. The likes of Adrian Segacic, who we saw and we spoke about, got picked in the under-23s a couple of days ago. We did mention there's always the possibility that the national team, the senior team, then overrides that selection. That has happened. Nestori Irankunda is back in the squad after a really good start for Watford. Nicholas Milanovic and Noah Botic are in line for their first senior caps. Mo Toure, Max Ballard, all of these names that people have been shouting for are going to get their opportunity. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. Like I said before, it gives these new players coming in to make their debuts and give them an opportunity, or most of them. Obviously, Iran Kunda's been in and out a bit and probably on the fringes a bit more than what people would have liked because obviously he's been touted as the future, as the main guy to spearhead this Socceroos attack. He's got so much talent, and the first few games he's played for Watford, besides the free kick, he's just been, I think, really important for that side in the championship to get that experience. You just want consistent minutes before the World Cup, and for Iran Kunda, that's such a good sign. For him, you got Noah Botic. He was obviously another big name in the A-League when he was playing for West United. Obviously, now has made that move to Austria. So, yeah, he's got the talent, but to finally integrate himself a bit more into the Socceroos setup to give Popovic a chance to see what is a bit what he's about close up and personal. That's obviously beneficial for him as well. So, yeah, there's a few players obviously in line, like you said, to make a first appearance. And Anthony Kalik is another one. He's played a lot of his football in Croatia. We know the ties, the links with Tony Popovic in Croatia. He loves, to select a couple of Croatian players, which he's familiar with. Milos Degenak was one of them. So,
Mm.
yeah, I'm really excited to see what a few players here can prove because, a year out from the World Cup, this is where, they may be friendlies, but for these players, it's more than just a friendly. They need to really prove themselves. And these are like one of the very few last chances for them to show Popovich that they deserve to be on the plane to North America.
Yeah, and Tony made that very clear in the press conference. He doesn't like the word friendlies. Every game is an opportunity to put your case forward, to develop as a team. We only have 4 or 5 windows. I think it's 5 windows before the World Cup, but only 4 of them before that World Cup squad will be selected, and 3 of them are in this calendar year. So it's really this run until Christmas time where we're going to get a bulk of those games in, and this is kind of, I think, will be framed as the fringe squad, those guys on the cusp to make their case while we have this opportunity with all these A-League players out. So from the last squad, you got Aziz Bayich, Kai Truan, Anthony Caceres, Paul Ogon-Engsler, Brandon Barella, Adam Taggart. Popovic said pretty much we just decided it was too early to select A-League players. And again, the luxury of being able to do that is having all these young guys come in and make their case. So
Mm.
especially where they're playing the Soccer Ashes between New Zealand. There was a nice little promo explaining the difference with a former Socceroo and some cricket gear as well, just making sure people knew what the Soccer Ashes were. But it's a little bit of PR, it's a little bit of the rivalry before we get into the games specifically designed to tune us into the World Cup. So this is phase one, impress him here. And then when we get to North America to play the US and Canada in the next window, that's going to be a little bit more of that first team, maybe some more players returning from injury, the likes of Riley McGree and such, and some of those A-League players back in fitness as well. Then we're starting to see a little bit more of what we'll see come World Cup time.
Yeah, and it goes to show as well how many players are actually playing overseas. I mean, there was that criticism even a few years back how there was a lack of development, a lack of players, taking the jump over, to Europe and other parts of the world. So for Popovic to have that luxury to rest some of these A-League players and say, look, I don't really need to call them up because they're in my back pocket. Some of them are obviously nailed in to be on the plane for the World Cup next year. It's a chance for him to really experiment a bit. I'd love to see a couple of new formations, some tactical tweaks here and there, and try and give these players a chance because obviously they all can't fit in the same system, right? They're going to have to adapt a bit. Some may play in the back three for their clubs, back four, all that sort of stuff. So I think Popovic will obviously keep that in the back of his mind, and really keen to see what some of these players are capable of in a national setup because we've seen before in previous years, whether it be Socceroos or other nations, you can play well for your club, but when it comes to putting on the green and gold, then it can be sometimes a different story, unfortunately. So it depends on the chemistry, how they interact with the players, and Popovic will take that all into account with his coaching staff. So yeah, looking forward to it.
As we look forward towards next Friday night and the team that might take the pitch, I think Matt Ryan's non-selection in this squad brings up two very interesting questions. Number one is who's going to play in goal. So we've got Joe Gauci, Paul Izzo and Tom Glover. Glover is still a bench keeper for Middlesbrough. He played once in the EFL Cup and they got knocked out. Paul Izzo has just returned from his hip injury and played 2 games for Randers over in Denmark. And Joe Gauci, he's had this loan move to Port Vale in League One, was on the bench for a little bit, but then has started the last 2 games. So of the 3 goalkeepers, that we've selected in this squad, they've played 5 games between them at the start of this season. That's not a lot of football. Obviously, it's a little bit different for a goalkeeper, but that spot seems really up for grabs. And then the second question for Matt Ryan's absence is who's going to be captain? We have no Jackson Irvine as well. They're the 2 instant picks. Popovic said he wouldn't commit to who they were going to give it to, but they have a few candidates. You're looking up and seeing who's the leadership options. I think my pick is probably Milos Degenek, but I'm interested in your thoughts as well.
Yeah, Degenek spring to mind. Probably him or Kyle Rouse. I think are 2 players there
Really?
who might
Okay.
put their hand up for the captaincy. I was looking at Chikati as well, but probably a bit too young, to be the captain at this stage. I think Popovic will looking for someone a bit more experienced there to lead the side. And for him, it doesn't really matter because once Matt Ryan and Irvine come back into the side, obviously the captain's armband goes back to them. So I don't think it's a real big issue as such. But to answer your first question in terms of with the goalkeeping situation, I think Popovic, you think he has Joe Gauci probably number 2 behind Ryan. I may be wrong, but just given the previous, selections, and Gauci has been the stand-in number 2. You mentioned Glover's been sort of on the outside number 3. It's a chance for him to play Gauci, give him a few minutes because you mentioned there's only about 4 to 5 windows to go into the World Cup. Once there's 2 to 3 windows are left, next year before the World Cup, he'll want to play Matt Ryan as much as possible. You don't want to be resting, obviously, your starting goalkeeper before the World Cup. So I think this is a chance for Gauci to start. I don't know if he's going to rotate maybe a half each in these games.
I could see
I'm not too
Gauci and
sure.
Izzo getting a game each.
In in separate games, 1 each. You reckon?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a fair shout. I can say that because obviously you want to share it around a bit with Ryan. Now you want to see your different options, obviously, and you said Gauci just made that move to Port Vale, so it is really wide open. So again, that's another motivating factor for these 3 goalkeepers to put their hand up to try and contest this number 2 position. It's a great opportunity.
All right, who else we got down the line? Anthony Kalic is probably a name that not many have heard of. He is yet to make a Socceroos appearance. He's a midfielder. He plays at Hadjic with Fran Karacic, so those two will be familiar with each other, but obviously a new name for us. Looking down the list of names, Geordie Boss is obviously someone I'm very excited about. Just through injury, he hasn't been a part of squads, but the fact that Bajic isn't there, Boss will absolutely be thrown in as he should be. Lewis Miller's been a lock at right back. I think Hayden Matthews coming in is pretty cool, but you've got Burgess, Chakati and Dejanek who will probably remain as that middle three. But then the midfield is like wide open. Ryan Teague, who's been starting recently for the Socceroos, he hasn't been starting for KV Mechelen over in Belgium at the moment. Paddy Yazbek and Aidan O'Neill have been regulars in the MLS. They're probably best placed. But then you've got the likes of Max Ballard, who's made a good start in the Eredivisie. And then that forward line of just Botic, Irankunda, Milanovic, Segatic, Toure. Boyle is the one, really senior experienced player in there. So it's going to be a lot of opportunity for these young guys. And it's just so exciting to have all these names that we've talked about, a lot of them graduating through the A-League in the last 12 to 24 months as well. And it's really going to be a taste of the future. So I'm very excited.
That forward line looks awesome. The names, the young talent, it sort of gives you goosebumps to see, what the future holds. It's funny because you said you got Martin Boyle in there. It's like that sort of tones it down a bit with all due respect, given that the young talent, you got Martin Boyle in there, but it's key. It's obviously key to have some experience in there as well. We know the importance Boyle plays, in this role with the Socceroos, and obviously a real shout to even start once the World Cup arises. So, yeah, the midfield's interesting as well. We've spoken about Max Ballard, time after time, how he's been knocking on the door and he's been, so close to earning a call up, and he finally gets his chance. Fully deserved as well. I think he's been brilliant over there in the Eredivisie, starting a lot of games. So, yeah, Ryan Teague also jumps to mind because I think Popper, in his mind, this is a player who is really pushing for a starting spot. Obviously, now with Irvine out of this squad, it's a chance for him to settle in. And we know Popper, yes, obviously it's important for him to have his players play a lot of minutes and game time, but at the same time, I don't think that phases him, if that makes sense. I mean, you look at Daniel Azani as a clear example over past windows where he was sort of in and out of the victory side. He wasn't playing at his best, but he still chose him because he has that faith. And I think Ryan Teague's one of those players as well. So, looking forward to seeing what he can do. And yeah, Jordan Boss, as you said, that's another good one I'm looking forward to. The pace down that side, down the flanks, crossing the balls in. He's got that attacking nous as well, just connecting, with the final third. That's going to be really exciting.
Can't wait. Just on Martin Boyle as well, a bit of a devastating morning for him. His Hibernian were playing their away leg against Lechia, the Polish side, in the final round of Conference League qualifying. They were down a goal going into the game. And then Boyle was a goal scorer to go 3-1 up. And what would that be?
3-2.
I can't remember. I can't calculate the aggregate score, but they were winning the tie at that point. And then they conceded in the 93rd minute to send it to extra time, and again in the 98th. So unfortunately, they won't be playing in Europe this season. But on the goals sheets was Martin Boyle today. But we're going to leave it there for now. Plenty more coming over this weekend and early next week. Keep an eye on the YouTube channel. Literally a little bit of behind the scenes here. Just as we started recording, we saw the OFC Pro League drop their teams, including Auckland United. Auckland FC, let me get that right, and South Melbourne, not including Wellington Phoenix, and we've seen Western United have been wound up by the Australian Federal Court, over the ATO bill. So there's lots of news coming. Keep an eye on YouTube and the socials, but we'll see you next time.